Hey, welcome back, Gen X Nation. It's that time. Let's get it. Let's get it done. Part three, Love and Marriage Huntsville reunion. Let's finish this thing out, people. So they start back with the Trish, Martell, and Ken situation. And they're going back and forth. Ken felt like Trish had admitted some of the things out as to how her and Martell met. And he was a little upset because Martell kept making, of course, jokes about it because Martell thinks everything's a freaking joke and it's not. And somewhere in between that, Mel kind of interrupted the conversation because Ken was getting a little heated, and she said, "Wait a minute, Martell, you ain't got nothing to say to Ken. You ain't got nothing to say to that man over there, because you always got something to say to the females, but he over here talking to you, and you don't have nothing to say." Because Ken did look a little heated. And Martell, tried to play it off, and he was like, "What do you mean? I do talk to men. I talk to Maurice and Marsol and Chris. What are you talking about?" Well, those your friends. They're used to you. It's easy to talk back to them, and we've seen you disrespect them, holler back to them, lie to them, and they just sit there and take it under the chin. They say nothing. But I don't think Ken will react that way if you tried it with him. Martell was kind of a little laid back. But he was trying to tell Melody, you need to stop gaslighting, and don't and he wasn't disrespectful to me. He wasn't disrespectful, so that's why I didn't have anything to say. He came to me very respectful, and in the meantime, Maurice gets to laughing. He immediately starts shouting at Maurice, which proves the point. Why ain't you shout at Ken? He immediately starts shouting at Maurice, like, what's funny? And then Nell said, Miss Nell, who was sitting next to him, stop hollering in my ear. She gets loud with Martell. And then Martell starts to snap on her. And then in the midst of that, I think he realized I just proved the point Melody was saying. And he doubled back, apologized to Chris, and then apologized to Nell. That's Martell, y'all. He literally just contradicted everything Melody was just saying. Melody was just saying right in front of everyone. So they get back to the conversation, and basically it came down to, I don't want to make this too long, but basically it came down to Ken did not like the fact that he felt Trish wasn't telling the whole truth. She was omitting some things out of it. Ken also felt that Martell was playing up the whole meeting, the situation. I don't know for a storyline or what, but kind of to make Trisha look bad and make it look like she was like a little loose out there in the streets. And Trish kind of changed her story a little bit because we know the original story was she met at his house to train him. They didn't train, they watched TV. Then she said, "Oh, I was supposed to meet him at a clubhouse because I usually train people in the gym. So when I went there, I thought we was going to the clubhouse." It's just kind of all over the place, Trish. Your story's still not adding up, but we're going to just leave it at that because I don't think we'll ever get to the bottom of it. And Ken again said he think Trish was just beating around the bush, and not really being upfront and truthful about it. And then they said, "Hey, Carlos kind of went into his little, I guess, his line talking about, well, Trish, there's a difference between a gym and a house. A gym has weights, and he started doing that stuff. I didn't think that was funny, but I guess for him being the host, he had to ask some kind of questions about that. He also asked her, "Well, did you know who Martell was or whatever?" And she was like, "No, I didn't know anything about him." He said, "You never watched the show? I mean, the show has been on for 7 years." And she said, "I've never seen the show." I don't believe that because she knew Stormy. Because remember, they came on with Stormy. So I'm sure Stormy had told her about the show. So that kind of didn't make sense to me because originally Stormy brought Trisha and Ken on because Ken was friends with Stormy's husband, Courtney. You had to have known Stormy was on that show if y'all were friends. So that there shows that Trisha's not always honest or truthful. Martell, kind of admitted he really doesn't hang out with, doesn't train with female trainers, but he tried to act as though he didn't say that. He tried to act as though he didn't say that she wasn't his type. He didn't find her attractive. And then She went back and said, "Oh, I didn't know that he was married. I found out later when I got to his house." And it, I guess, in my opinion, just my opinion, Trish story and Martell's story is still out there in the air. I don't think we'll ever get down to the truth. I don't think they really done anything, but maybe they came close to it. Now there was a point in the conversation that I forgot to mention where Melanie did interrupt them and asked Chris Fletcher, did he introduce Trisha to Martell? And Chris had to admit it. He had to go on and tell the truth. He said, yes, he was at the gym. Martell asked him, did he see any nice women there? What was any nice women there? He said yes. Gave him Trish information. Martell looked Trisha up on Instagram, DM'd her, and I guess that's how they got hooked up. So Chris Fletcher was responsible for them meeting. But I'm just, again, why do y'all lie so much? Why don't y'all just tell the truth? You could have said that in the beginning instead of letting it go, this lie go on so long. But I digress. Next, we're going to move on to the next segment, and I think that is when Marquez comes out. He joins the cast. So now you have Ken, Trisha, and Marquez talking about their situation as far as the marriage and the divorce and when Ken started dating her. According to Marquez, he left his marriage in 2021 and moved to Atlanta. They had been together since 2006. I guess, as he said, they met in school. Um, then they go on to start talking about Ken starts telling Marquez that, he wasn't a good father. He's not there for his kids. The same argument they've been having forever. And Marquez said, hey, I was trying to fight for my marriage, but I couldn't because apparently you had already moved in and decided to take my place. And you were sending my wife pictures of chocolate lollipops in 2017 before I even left the house. So I guess he was insinuating Ken and Trisha had some things going on. But we have heard this argument all through the season. So I don't want to get too deep into that. They go back and forth. He say, hey, stop, stop playing with me. Ken is getting upset and all of that. Marquez finally tells Ken, hey, I'm their father. You keep getting into the middle of our relationship. Y'all trying to ostracize me and block me from seeing the kids. Ken is telling him, well, we're not blocking you from seeing our kids. Marquez gets upset about that statement and saying, I'm their father. What are you talking about, our kids? You're just the bonus guy and you need to play your role. You never even had a conversation with me before you start, meeting my children and hanging out around my children and doing stuff for them. Ken didn't mention one time he loaned his son a car to drive down to Atlanta to see him celebrate his birthday. It's just the same old crap. DNA don't make you a dad. you know Marquez is blaming, saying they my DNA. Ken saying DNA doesn't make you a father. It was just back and forth. Trish sitting there throwing in her 2 cents at Marquez. I'm not saying Marquez is wrong in the way he feel, and I'm not saying he's right for leaving his family. But I think sometimes Ken does overstep his boundaries with Marquez when they're talking about the children, and Trisha doesn't say anything. She doesn't say anything. I still keep in mind that Trisha and Ken are not married, so he's legally not the stepfather. He is still a living boyfriend, as far as I'm concerned, or at least that's how it looks legally. Um, Another thing, Marquez, he has to understand where some of Trisha's anger and frustration comes from. He said, it's hard, Trisha's broken. She needs therapy. He called both of them narcissists. And, as I said, he can't co-parent with narcissists. So that argument goes back and forth. That's what they do. Every time they're on the screen, they argue like that. Carlos at some point stepped in, tried to let Marquez know that this is a platform. This is an opportunity and a platform for you to be heard and to speak your mind. He didn't want Marquez getting so upset because Marquez was about to pull out cell phones and I guess show receipts and stuff like that. So hopefully they'll figure that out. But as I stated before, I don't have anything against Ken or Trisha, but I think Ken does get a little bit. He does step out of line sometime with Marquez pertaining to the kids. As far as everything else, whatever. But word on the street is him and Trisha are even not even together now. So I don't know what's going on there. Carlos did ask them about, that heated argument they had on the last episode. We all seen it, we heard it. I'll just move past that. But as they were closing that segment off, Marquez wanted to give Melody her flowers. I think he has a crush on Melody, because he was like, "Can I give Melody her flowers?" So he, pretended to take the flowers off the table, go over to Melody, and then somebody tried to insinuate, because he stopped and asked Martell, "Was it okay?" I don't know why he did that, but he went on and got on there, and basically he was just giving her flowers and asking her, "Hey, we can hook up and do some business together." They hugged it out, and it was cute little set there. But somebody tried to insinuate, well, isn't what he just did with Melody the same as what Trisha Martell did? And Melody said real quick, "Nope, don't even try it. It is not the same." I'm glad she said that, because they did try to compare compare the two incidents. But I thought it was cute. Overall, nothing much to see so far at the reunion. Not any major blowouts. Then we come up to Carlos deciding, oh, I got a special guest. We're going to bring out our special guest. The special guest, of course, was Stormy. She didn't say long. She talked about, the things that she went through on the show, why she left the show, how she's one of the number one sellers on TikTok. And it just kept her real busy flying back and forth from California to LA. And so it was, I guess, best for her to leave the show. But she appreciated everybody. She was very nice and respectful and generally kind. She did mention that the show did take her through a lot. When she got there, she already had a business established, because I used to buy Canvas Beauty products, the hair oil and the shampoo and the conditioner. And then I guess this show did give her a platform to expand the business a little more, because that body butter and things and oils and stuff she have is really doing really well. And she was just like, the show kind of got I guess, interfered in what she was trying to get off the ground as far as getting her business restarted. She did have some negative experiences with some of the people. A lot of negative stuff was being said. There was some shaky times doing that, where her business was, having some issues, but she seems to have recovered and she seems to be okay. We do wish Stormy the best. I do hear on the streets that she was filming for the next season. I guess she could be like a friend of the show here and there. But from what I can see, her and Courtney won't be back. She definitely said Courtney didn't like being on the show. He really just did it for her. So that was Stormy's take. I mean, y'all, of course, you guys probably looked at it. I think Stormy, probably now that Melody is gone for good, you probably see her appearing on the show a little more. But I will give her credit. She was very nice, respectful, and cordial. She didn't snap, go off, or say anything negative, even though a lot of the things that he showed during her time on the show wasn't always in a positive light. But yeah, good luck to Stormy. Okay, now we're going to talk about the girls' trip. I know this was before Stormy came out, but Carlos was on the stage with all the ladies, and he was discussing the girls' trip that they took to St. Thomas. First thing he wanted to talk about was the room situation. Tisha was the first one to speak up. She didn't like the room. She felt, it was wrong the way Mel had did the room assignments. But she said overall she felt the trip went well. Kimmy chimed in and she said, I didn't like what was going on. I mean, at the end of the day, we was filming in Mel's backyard for free when she wanted to start this this show. We was filming for free. We did not get paid. So I did feel disrespected, but I also felt like I got caught in the crossfire between the Melody Destiny thing. But she got to remember, Kimmy, Tisha invited Destiny unbeknownst to Melody that she was coming. When she found out, she had to rearrange some stuff to ensure that she had a place to sleep. And since y'all were the one who invited her, y'all had to end up in an area that could accommodate 3 people. So if you want to blame anybody for the room situation, maybe you should look at Tisha. Just my observation of how that whole thing went down. Nevertheless, they talked about it, moved on to the next topic. Then they started talking, Melody and Nell gets into it because apparently there was a comment made that Melody thought or had a Jesus complex. Melody said no. Nell said that, and she didn't like that. Nell said, "Oh, I was just joking, trying to be funny because earlier in the segments, the reunion part 1 or 2, Melody said something about she was joking. So I guess she was trying to throw that back at her, clap back at her. Um, Carlos asked, "Do y'all think Melody's head has blown up? Since being on the show." Everybody kind of had silence look. Of course, you can look at some of the facial expressions, but Nell said yes. And then she went back into the whole mentoring thing or whatever. But Melody did correct her. She said, "Hey, you're the one always calling me the queen of the show. You're the one calling me the queen of the show. There go the queen. Answer to the queen," whatever. She mimicked her. And Nell had to admit, "Yeah, I do say that." So why are you mad if she walking around here saying she the queen if you give her that nickname? It doesn't make sense. But any reason to get mad at the young lady, that's what they do. So then Nell went on again with the whole mentoring thing. And Melody was trying to explain to Nell what her stance was on the mentoring situation. Kimmy wants to chime in, but I will say this time, Mel cut her short real quick, like, let me answer this. So Kimmy pulled back. Thank God, because Kimmy was trying to reel it on in again. She was trying to get her a moment. And Mel did finally tell Miss Nell that she does appreciate her and all of that. And I think that really helped Miss Nell feel a little better. And that's all I wanted Melody to ever do, was just say, "Hey, thank you, I appreciate it." Because I think that's all Nell was really looking for. Um, After that, they go into Carlos starts the whole Destiny Melody thing back again. Of course, Destiny again has nothing nice to say. And it basically came down to Carlos said, "Hey, after the trip, it looked like you guys had conversations. Y'all were going back and forth. And I thought y'all was on one accord when y'all left there." And then Melody Destiny accused Melody of trying to assume she was a stalker, saying, "Well, it was fine until she started putting out that I was following her around, and like I was stalking her or something." You were, Destiny. Did you watch the same show we watched? You literally was following her around. You said, "I love you. I miss you." And you wanted to sit next to her. Who's sitting in this seat? I'm sitting next to Mel. You did follow her around like a lost puppy dog. So it wasn't like she was acting like you was stalking. We watched it. I'm not saying you were stalking her, but you were following her around. And so Mel said, "You know what? She did follow you. You were following me around, sitting next to me, constantly whispering stuff to me." And she was like, "Well, you was replying back to me. I mean, if you whisper something to her, and if it's a question or something, I'm sure she's just being polite and responding back to you." Um, she basically said, Carlos was like, "Is there going to be, I guess, any resolution between those two?" And Melody basically said, "No, I don't think so. It's going to be like this forever. Wherever we left ourselves at in St. Thomas, that's where we left ourselves at." And then she said, "Till death do us part" at the end. So I think that relationship is dead, because not just what happened in St. Thomas, but probably some stuff that happened when they got back. Because I don't care what nobody tells me, Destiny is still hanging out with Martell and Arion. And I think that's one of the reasons that relationship would never be as strong as it is. Okay, it would never be strong again, because she wants to hang out with who Melody considers her rival enemy, Arion. I don't even think it's Martell anymore. I think it's just Arion. So after that, they finally did a tribute to Kiki. I'm not going to go into details of that because it's kind of sad, but I appreciate that Tisha did explain the relationship a little more. Maurice spoke up on her. Everybody, a few people spoke up on how great a person Kiki was. I personally like Kiki. I think she was all over the place, but she was good for the show. And That's kind of how it ended with the tribute with Kiki and everything. Now, as far as my final thoughts on the show, I we don't know if it's coming back next season. Everybody's up in an uproar, but with Melody not there, I don't know how they're going to save the show. And I'm not saying she is the queen of the show and all of that, but let's just be real. She do keep the ratings up. Apparently people were did a blackout on this particular part of the reunion. We won't know till later on this week if the blackout really worked or not, and that's a telltale sign. But what I have noticed is Maurice and Kimmy, who hates social media, don't like being on social media, is starting to show her face a lot more on social media. Tisha Tish, Tisha and Marceau, Tisha doesn't like social media. She didn't like all the negative stuff she would get, so she stopped showing up on social media. Now she's on there all the time. So I think they're trying to boost their interests and boost their popularity and get more followers so people will start watching the show. Because Destiny is not going to save the show. Personally, I think there's a good chance we may not see much of Destiny next season because of the whole quote unquote grooming issues, allegations, and the way she was talking to Carlos at the reunion. There was one or two times she said a little snobby thing to him I don't think he liked. So if she come back, she'll probably be friend of the show because she doesn't have a storyline unless she start dating somebody's son or cousin or something of that nature because she doesn't have anybody else to be mad at. Um, we don't know, like I said, if the Scots 2.0 is going to be able to save the show, garner up enough fan base to get people to watch. We don't know if Owen's going to pick the show up again because of the whole grooming allegations. And apparently, allegedly, in my opinion, for entertainment purpose and for entertainment purposes only, there are some lawsuits out there allegedly against a show coming from several people. Ken and Trisha, that storyline, we're done with it. We're done with it. We don't care if you slept with Martell or not. Doesn't matter. Apparently, y'all broke up, so y'all won't be there anyway. So that storyline is probably over. The most he can probably do is bring on a new couple, which people would have to warm up to, and maybe bring Stormy back. I don't know how much of a fan base she would bring with her. But I say that show at this point is really on life support, and that's putting it mildly. I don't know what they're going to do going forward, but I will say that show is definitely on life support. So we shall see. I wish everybody the best on that show, whatever career opportunities that they have, whatever endeavors they're doing now. I wish them all the success. As I said and always say, everything on my page, Gen X Nation, is alleged, in my opinion, and for entertainment purposes only. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't know these people personally. I do not hate anyone on the show. I do my commentary based on what I see on this TV screen and how I see their body language, and then I reply after that. And of course, things that they have said in the past too. And one other thing, they said Wanda was out here wilding out on some stuff. Wanda does not help the ratings either. If you bring Wanda back and considering the issues you got going on now, Wanda's mouth is out of control. I wouldn't bring her back on the show. I mean, I don't know who she would cuss out because she don't have Melody to cuss out. But bringing Wanda in definitely ain't gonna save the show. And God forbid if you even try to get Ariana a spot or two, they're gonna eat you up. So go back to the drawing board. It's a good concept. It's a good show. We need to focus more on the business. And I believe that's what they're trying to do now. But you're probably about 7, 8 seasons too late. I think people are done. Okay? Oh, and with that being said, you guys have a great rest of your day. Like, share, and subscribe. I know this was a quick commentary. Most of the stuff they discussed in part 3 to me wasn't that interesting. We had heard it all before, to be honest, and nobody really resolved anything for the most part. But with that being said, you guys go off, enjoy yourself. Have a great rest of your day. Stay warm. I hear another cold front is hitting the certain parts of the country. You guys stay warm and enjoy the rest of your day. Gen X Nation out. Peace.